Hi everyone, Happy New Year and welcome back. A few months ago I made a guide about how to micro your Navy and it was surprisingly popular and appreciated. So I thought, why not do the same for Air Force and how to micro your Air Force? Because if used right, an Air Force could be the reason why you win the land war. It might not look like it or feel like it, that it's thanks to the Air Force that your troops suddenly get green bubbles everywhere, but a really crappy land army can win a land battle as long as you have a really strong air force to back you up. And so that's is what I will be focusing on in this guide. I will focus on fighters, CAS and tactical bombers and how to use that in a combination on the front line while attacking a country like the Soviet Union playing Germany. I hope you guys will enjoy it. Alright, so before going into the actual attacking and microing of the airplanes, let's start by looking at the UI and some of the the prerequisites for attacking and using your Air Force. And let's start with the hotkeys. So F1 is the land view that we're in right now. F3 is the air view. So this is this toggling between F1 and F3 that's very important for microing your Air Force in a good way. The second thing is then, of course, the air zones. So right now we see the different air zones here, and the color indication, that's basically what you want to keep an eye out for. We will come back to that more later, but the quick version is you don't want to attack or defend under red air because red gives you debuffs, or your troops on the ground will get debuffs when fighting. While as the other way around, if you have green air in a zone, the enemy will get debuffs. That's the quick version out of it. And then after that, we want to look at air bases. And you see those little symbols of an airplane, those are the air bases, while as the one with the circle around, that's where you have planes, basically. And the quick thing here regarding microing Air Force is that if you have an airbase like this one with 1,400 in capacity, and we have 940 there right now, you never want to go up to the maximum because in multiplayer or also in single player, there's a high risk of you getting bombed. And if you overcrowd an airbase, you lose all your efficiency quite dramatically, or not all of it, but most of it. So you always want to keep some wiggle room and some capacity or some extra slot space to get bombed, basically. So never use full capacity on your air bases when microing. And then after that, you want to keep an eye out for fuel. So when your Air Force is up flying everywhere, you burn a lot of fuel real quick. So keep an eye out that if you're gaining or losing fuel. And if you're burning through your fuel reserves too quick, make sure to import some oil or build some refineries and you get more fuel. And then the thing I know that a lot of people might miss, which is also one layer in the complexity side, that is the supply map mode. Because just like in land army, where you have some quick, simple indications that if you have bad supply, like up here, this unit is having supply issues. The same goes for airplanes. They also require supply to be able to operate properly. So if I hover this airbase here, where we have 700 fighters, and go back to the supply map mode, we see that it receives 1.96 supply, which is 100%. So that's good. It's operating as it should. But if the supply drops, then also my air efficiency drops, and I can't really use my Air Force properly. So the quick version of this is if you're too close to the front line where there's a lot of units that might steal your supply, or if you're getting cut off or bombed, move your planes backwards to a supply, close to a supply hub where there's plenty of supply. So you don't want to overcrowd any supply hubs. Or you might want to upgrade the infrastructure or railways, etc. around it. But that's basically keeping an eye out for supply. All right, so again, the quick version, never overcrowd your air bases, make sure that you have fuel, make sure that you have supply, and then also make sure that you have air bases enough for the purpose of what you want to achieve. But that comes in the next part. Before moving on to the next part, I just want to take a short moment of your time and say that most of you watching this are yet not subscribers to the channel. So please hit that subscribe button here somewhere, like, comment, and you will receive a new guide from me and Boppus every Monday. If you run out of guides and you want more guides, we have Patreon exclusive guides with a full archive of, I think it is 25 or 26 guides already. And then we release an additional 2 every month or every second week on Thursdays. So check it out. It's in the description below, and you can also support us, and we get super, super happy. Yeah, let's continue. Okay, so now we're going to attack the Soviet Union. And as we can see, it's quite straightforward where we want to use our airplanes, one might think. Because if we look at the map mode, the front line is exactly where the air zones split right now. That means that if we fly into an offensive air zone, we will get support on the land for all battles happening in that zone. So right now down here we see that the Soviets are attacking us over the border between 2 air zones. If we would put all our fighters now in the Ukraine air zone, it wouldn't help us anything. So, because the fights are happening on our side of the border, which means that we want to have all our planes in this zone to support us. So, depending on if you're attacking or defending and where the border is between 2 air zones, you want to move the planes around. So you always have green air on the side of the border on the air zones where the fight is happening. And the same goes for close air support then, of course. So if we take some close air support planes, we want to move them down here, put them on CAS, and then if we would unpause now, you see green air, and the close air support is coming here, and then they also start operating in those zones. There we go. And it will go really quick and very easy for us. But now you can see our companion here, the Romanians, they're starting to attacking over the border with 15 there. Then we would need to then move all our planes over to this side to be able to support him to get green air to help him in that fight. And the CAS here, down here, they won't be able to operate efficiently into this zone. So if I do this, they're just covering it. It looks like they can help. But if I would hover down here, you see that their mission efficiency is super low. The fighters are okay. It's building up because they have better range because they're closer. So they would probably be able to operate somewhere between 30 and 40% because they cover quite a lot of Ukraine. But the CAS won't be. So they're basically not doing anything right now. So if we move the CAS closer, like this, then all of a sudden the efficiency goes up and they will be able to help out. But you can see here we have 30 and 20% offensively, which is still not much. And those percentages, that basically indicates that out of all these fighters flying into Ukraine, only 30% right now is making a sortie into Ukraine. So out of 400, only 30% is flying. Out of 500, only 100 is flying, 19 or 20% basically. So that's the first thing you really need to consider. Where is the fight? Where are the fights that I'm going to support? Are they in my territory or are they in the enemy's territory, or what air zone basically? So you make sure that you move your airplanes around into the right air zone, but also make sure that you have the range that you need to operate in that air zone. And that's where a close air support versus, for example, tactical bombers, if we move them down here, tactical bombers can operate much further back, but still gain high efficiency into the zone. So see here, from this airbase, they can fly all the way up here. If we move a couple of them up here, they can operate in quite far into Ukraine. So that's something you can keep an eye out for. If you, however, need, like, you can't really get the efficiency up, there are some tricks of how to do it. One is to click here to use some we call it ground cruise, so some command power to boost it by 10%. So that's a quick fix. But the real thing you want to do is then, of course, see, are there anywhere I could build air bases that's closer to the border, which will give me automatically longer range into the enemy territory. So building here in this zone could be good, for example, or more expand this airbase closer to the front if it can carry the extra supply required. But let's take a little bit step back and analyze the situation and prepare for an assault on the Soviet Union. Because now we just played around a little bit here in Ukraine, but let's look at the whole front line and how we would use our air force. So we have 3 offensive zones that we're gonna operate into. That's Novgorod, Belarus, and Ukraine. That's the offensive zones that we want to go into, supporting our assaults into that. And then we have 3 defensive zones: Eastern Balkan, Eastern Poland, and the Baltic states. And then we can see that they are right now also bombing us here in the back line. But that would be difficult for them. If we start flying in the offensive zones, we would indirectly block them to an extent in our back zones as well. But what I would do, which I usually do, is that I would make sure that we have some fighters in the back regions, just to intercept and stop some paradrops and shenanigans. So I would send down something here as well, or down let's see, like this in that zone. Then I would probably have some planes, just like 100 everywhere, because now we plan to attack up in the north. So I would want to have some planes just covering my defensive zones. And then we can see that Soviets are attacking us heavily down here. So I would probably skip Ukraine, put 500 CAS and some fighters defensively here just to get green air. Then I would use most of my attack capacity into Belarus or into Novgorod. So let's see, do we have range into those zones first and foremost? Because we need air support with or air superiority with our fighters, and then we need close air support with our CAS or tacticals. So let's take those 500 planes first. Here we have a really good airbase. This one will let us operate quite well into Novgorod and Belarus. It will be costly because we don't have that long range, so not many of them will fly, but it's better than nothing. So those 500 I would probably put up here to assist and assault in this region. This airbase can only right now have a capacity of 600, so I would like to upgrade that one as well. I'm gonna cheat now to make it a little bit quicker. So let's upgrade it just symbolically a little bit. This means that we can also move some close air support to assist that attack up there. So where do we have those? 500 here. So let's move 500 CAS up to that zone. So it now all of a sudden it looks like this. Now we can support an attack here. In the center region, I would want to move some planes into that. We have one good airbase here, 600. It's not that big, but it's better than nothing. Air superiority into that zone. That region on the state on the front is probably ideal. So let's build another airbase there. And this one here as well. Let's build some levels there. So then we can move. Okay, that airbase ended up all the way to the left, so that's not good. That's better. Let's move some planes there into that zone. Then we can move our tactical bombers a bit forward, 500 there, and we could move another up there. And you take them all on close air support into that region. So now, if I unpause, what we have now is a perfect setup where we can attack in the north and in the center while defending in the south. So if I start pushing into those zones now with my units, I'm just gonna do it like this to make it simple. We would probably have some pretty good green bubbles in most places. Yeah, because the Air Force, if you look at F3, they are helping us in those battles. And right now, we're not really facing any proper Air Force enemy threat. If they would start challenging us in those two zones, we might be able to readjust by moving more fighters into those zones, because minimum we want to be able to fight under yellow air so our close air support and tactical bombers can help out. If it turns to red, they will be intercepted most of the times or disrupted. So we want to have at least yellow when we attack to get the effect from our close air supports. If we have green, all the buffs also ends up in our favor. So air superiority, debuff on the enemy, and air support buff on us as well. All right, so the setup we see now, that's usually enough to win against the AI when just grinding down your opponent. If you want to add some extra finesse to this attack and strategically win on a higher level, so to speak, what you can do then is to add two things. And that is that on all our planes going on close air support mission, supporting battles, is to also add log strike mission. That means that if there's no battle for them to fly into and support, they will just continuously log strike the opponent, basically destroy, even though there's no fight. That's basically destroying trucks and trains of the enemy, just grinding them down over time. And if the enemy runs out of trucks and trains, they won't be able to properly supply their units on the front line. They will always get some local supply, but that's usually not enough. So if they have a concentration of units on the front line, they would need their trains or trucks to properly give supply to those units. So that's always a good idea to use log strike on the front line section, so up here as well. If the enemy then would start defending themselves in the air against my log striking or close air support missions and move a lot of airplanes into those zones, what I would do then, if it turns yellow or red, I would use all my tactical bombers or strat bombers if you have those. Stop bombing, stop close air supporting, go for strat bombing instead, pick air bases, and then just hammer their air bases while attacking. This means that, because repair queues ends up in the bottom at the construction queue. This means that the enemy will start losing levels on their air bases, and then they will overcrowd their air bases. So if they have 1,000 planes in an air base with 1,000 capacity, the second it turns to 800 capacity, they will lose a lot of efficiency right away. And then you will get the upper hand, and it will be like a death spiral for the enemy. So it will usually turn like a bad situation for you. So if it's yellow or red, if they defend themselves, and then we manage to bomb them a bit, it will turn green right away for us, basically, the second they overcrowd. And if they don't repair themselves out of that spiral, we will just keep on having the pressure on them and then win on the land battle as well. So that is a very good idea. And then as soon as all the air bases are destroyed and we get greener again, then I would probably remove the strat bombing mission on most of my tacticals, maybe keep 200, 300 of them, and then turn the rest to close air supporting again and log striking. So that's usually one thing. So like in Ukraine right now, they have some active fighters. 300 is not much, but let's say they would have 1,000 planes active there, and I would want to attack into Ukraine. Then I would try to fly in there with my own air force. It would probably turn yellow because I have bad efficiency into that zone, even if I concentrate all my fighters into that zone. But then if I just start carpet bombing all their air bases as a focus target, it will get green real quick for me because they won't be able to have any efficiency in the air anymore. And then I could swap to close air supporting and just roll them over, basically. Okay, some kind of quick summary. When you want to attack someone and micro your air force, make sure as the first step to use your planes in the right air zone where you also have the fight. If it's on a border between two zones, it's the one you're attacking into is the one you want to fly into and support. If you're defending, you want to stay with your planes in the defending zone because that's where all the buffs end up and the fights as well. And then, of course, also, when you plan an attack, it's always a good idea to start strat bombing their air bases if you want to get green air, because that's usually quite difficult to turn back or repair yourself quick enough out of that. So try to bomb the air bases first and then fly in with everything, CAS and log strike your enemy. But then also be quick also to analyze the situation. If one of your zones turns yellow or red, it might be because you're overcrowding an airbase. It could be that you're out of supply, or it could be that you're flying from an airbase that's too far away, so not that many. You have bad efficiency, So you might want to move your airplanes closer to the fight, but still you want to make sure that you have supply, because either or will remove a lot of your efficiency. So keep an eye on the range of your planes, keep an eye on supply, and try to move as close to the air zone as possible where the fight is happen. And then as a last thing, always make sure that you have some fighters up in the air in your interior as well, so they don't strat bomb over your head or paradrop over your head. It's so annoying when that happens. So just keep 100 fighters here and there, and they won't be able to paradrop you. That's usually enough. This guide was quite basic, quite straightforward from my perspective, so I might be able to do an advanced version of this down the road, but please let me know what you think and if you want to have more content like this. I hope you enjoyed it.